Evening. It's Tuesday here on Divots and Pivots on That Sports Podcast Network. And if you're listening to the audio, when we put this up on Wednesday. Also now, the big announcement today, we are now part of Golfers Gang Network. Proud to be here with the audio, hanging out with you guys. So big things coming, big steps forward for us. So happy to be part of that network. What did you mess up already over there?
So we've got this ice maker. And
it
makes perfect little like balls of ice. No, it's not an ice maker. Sorry, let me rephrase that. We have a circular ice tray, like little balls of ice, not an ice maker. We ain't got like Chick-fil-A ice maker money. But it always ends up making these like sheets of ice too that my wife hates. So I break them up, I throw them in my glass, and I've got my trusty Michelob Ultra PGA Tour pint glass that I ganked from the players. TPC Sawgrass Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Spilled shit everywhere. Just spilled shit everywhere, all over your introduction and everything else. Beard's looking healthy, my friend. You gonna trim that thing coming out of the winter here, or are you just gonna let it go till the wedding?
No, I'll be trimming it. I'll be trimming it here soon. It really comes down to a lazy factor. That's what it comes down to. So, but I will be trimming it here shortly because it is starting to reach that point where it gets a little itchy under the neck here. So. I let it go as long as I can until it starts annoying me and the fiance. Because you don't want to annoy the fiance. Good to see you too. Are you watching the TGL playoff right now, Atlanta and Bay?
I am. I'm intrigued.
I know, back and forth. Last night's matchup and tonight's matchup, nice close back and forth. You gotta love it. It's what you want to see out of these matchups.
I mean, I'm not that. I mean, I'm still. It captured my attention when my attention needed capturing.
Fair.
The first, what is it? The first four, the opening four, the final four, the March Madness, whatever, all that shit kicked off.
Yes, that's going on tonight. Yeah.
So part of me also thinks that somebody didn't look at the scheduling because who is going to tune into this besides us? But then again, maybe they just chalk it up to knowing that that's going to happen on a night like tonight. The thing that I'm mostly curious about is to just see if Bay can be slayed, so to speak. You know, they were the top dogs throughout most of, if not the entire regular season. Still no word, I think, on whether or not when we're getting season 2 or whatever they're going to call this. I don't know how they're going to, serialize all of this TGL goodness, but it was what I noticed about the last night's, heartbreaker with Tommy and the lip out there. Mostly was his reaction. He had this big grin on his face and looked up at his teammates like, "Are you serious?" Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like laughing it off like a middle schooler would getting their first C, and they just kind of wave it in the air and be like, "Look at this, I'm mediocre." And they try to almost turn it into a joke. It was genuine shock, but it wasn't like his dreams were crushed. It was like, okay, that's what he looks like when he loses a money game with the boys back home.
And he knows that shouldn't have happened, but damn, it just happened.
And juxtaposed against, that's a big word there. You appreciate that, don't you? Juxtaposed against the heartache and heartbreak we saw Monday morning out of Ponte Vedra and Senor Spawn. It really shows that TGL's here for fun. That's all we're here to do. Let's not overthink this. Let's get hyped, fly your flag. I think year 2, really, you're going to see these cities kind of lean into it a little bit more as well. I wouldn't be shocked if there's like watch parties everywhere and shit. But their real 9-to-5 job is a grind. And I think with what we got going on here with TGL is nice and it's fun. And I do want to see if Atlanta can hold this off. I'm not. Our frogs. I am flying the flag tonight. Our frogs they need work, and I think
they need a rebuild already.
Well, here's the thing: Rory's won twice on the PGA Tour. He won at Pebble Beach. He won at TPC Sawgrass. And I saw somebody else post it. Had it not been for Scotty in his otherworldly playing last year, it's similar to kind of Phil Mickelson in his career, where take Tiger out of the equation. Phil is probably Tiger. Those numbers would be astronomically higher. And I think it's fair to be said. It's fair to say. It's fair to say. I hate the passive voice. It's fair to say that because there's Roars and Poppy. Yeah, it's fair to say that the parity in golf right now because of the Tiger. This is the Tiger effect, where you get, multiple top tier elite guys again, as opposed to, I'm not saying it was watered down in Tiger's era. I think Tiger was just head and shoulders above, and he brought what the line of elite is up with him.
Right.
So you do
Which
get
pushed an
Scotty.
entire generation to also change what is recognized as standard and acceptable now.
And which is how you end up getting Rory McIlroy and Scotty Scheffler, because I totally forgot about it. Somebody's like, Rory won 5 times last year, and I think it was globally 5 times. I'm like,
yeah, global, yeah, that includes the race to Dubai and all that. Yeah,
any other golfer, take Joe Shit the Rag Man, give him 5 victories around the world in any year, and you've got a Hall of Famer. Case in point, David Duval. David Duval was a U.S. Junior Am, Georgia Tech All-American, comes out. He was supposed to be, when Phil looked like maybe he wasn't going to be able to kind of slay the Tiger, so to speak, although Phil had longevity. We'll get to Phil later. Phil's thirsty right now. But David Duval shot 59. Him and Tiger win the World Cup together. He gets to number 1 for about 5 minutes. I think somebody can fact check me on this, but I think he might have been the last, either him or Ernie Els, maybe the last world number 1 before Tiger went on that unbreakable streak that he went on.
I want to say you're right about it being Els. I feel that sounds familiar. Well, hello there, Missy.
That's Cooper. That's Cooper, the intern, checking in for the evening. All right, go to bed.
The other cool thing that happened with that, and just mentioning Rory and how he won 5 times. This is also the earliest he's won 2 tournaments to start the year. So he's arguably, just by the numbers, off to his best start yet, which is good news for the season, obviously. And then JJ Spawn, the surprising one I saw, JJ Spawn's now the first player so far this year to reach 3 top 3 finishes to start the year. So he's the first one to hit that milestone. So JJ Spawn and Rory were definitely 2 of the hottest golfers coming in to this week, and they get to show off in the playoff, and that's fantastic. Now, one of the other hottest golfers, Michael Kim, a guy that I was on last week, really let me down. That hurt.
Yeah. Well, you want to exercise your Michael Kim situation right here and explain to the audience what you did on the Twitter sphere to have.
I wasn't even going to say that. What I was gonna say is
I keep your business, buddy.
I sat here on the show
right between you and me.
I sat here on the show last week and I said that I was picking for the Scott Fishbowl challenge. My one and done pick was going to be Xander, and then as I started thinking about it, some of the things you said got to me. So I said, I'm going to get off Xander. I'm going to go to Michael Kim because less people will be on him. I'll be able to use Xander down the road at another tournament this year. And then Michael Kim goes and misses the cut, and I get a whopping 0 points to start that off. So that's not that Xander would have got me some points, but I think Xander finished close to last out of all the guys who made the cut. So I was still going to suck this week no matter what, but anything would have been better than 0. And yes, so hashtag golfer gang. Thanks for stopping by. Pitch Putt and Puff. Sorry, Pitch Putt and Puff. We're gonna join up with them sometime soon and do some collaborations. We'll be able to look out for that.
I can't wait to ask if the Puff is a cereal or pharmaceutical reference. So it was David Duval who was world number 1 before Tiger went on his first stretch. So David Duval was world number 1 from August 8th, 1999 to August 14th, 1999. Yeah, so you got a solid run there. And then Tiger takes over August 15th, 1999, and holds on to that until September 4th, 2004. That was his first run of 254 weeks. He then set the record at 281 consecutive weeks at 2005 to 2010.
Right. There's your answer. You knew that was the answer, though, anyways. Come on.
So they call that a leading question.
I know.
I believe in the legal industry. We'll get McAdams on the McAdams firm on the phone. Yeah, I did. I spilled my grapefruit seltzer almost into my coffee. I'm a little nervous about taking a sip of my coffee right now because if it tastes like grapefruit, I might retch. And for the first time, God knows how long, I'm pain free, and I'm afraid that if I throw up, then this temporary crown back here might pop out. And for those of you listening on the radio, yeah, I'm way older than I sound. Maybe I'm just as old as I sound, but I've never felt older in my life than explaining to people, sit on the couch and just put the kids to bed, chomp, popcorn kernel, cracked a molar, had to go in, emergency root canal. I will say this, get the whole numbing of your face.
Yeah.
It reminds me of two things. Reminds me of some long evenings and misspent early mornings back in college with a different recreational substance, and how it can have a similar numbing effect on your face from time to time. But also just how fucking wild modern medicine is, man. Like
Right.
I hadn't been in a hot minute. I'd never had a root canal before, and the
Yeah, same.
whole thing. Good. Congratulations, Andrew.
Yeah,
Good
but
for
you know what sucks is my 8-year-old needs one. So
Oh,
because
here,
she had that incident last year where she lost the permanent tooth and we had to put it back in to try to save it. But they said that it was most likely going to need a root canal, and it turns out that we are a year later going to
All right. Well,
cross
listen.
that bridge.
I'll tell you this. I am the biggest baby in the world when it comes to pain. I overhype it. Because I'm the biggest baby. But
I might have you beat on that, but I'm gonna let you hold on to it for a little bit.
no, I'm okay with relinquishing that one to you.
Yeah.
But I get myself built up and built up and built up
Yeah.
and built up, and of course I'm like, is it safe? And that's all I could think about.
Sure.
And really, the worst part about it was when she's like, "All right, little pinch," and they have to inject the stuff into your gums because they come from the inside. But I say, it's the tiniest little pinch, and it lasts.
You don't really feel it.
Because you forget they're injecting anesthetic or whatever.
The worst part is the taste. The taste is the worst part because you taste a little bit of the medicine and you taste a little bit of blood, and it's weird.
Yeah, I started gagging. They had to tell me to come up and everything and rinse it out and all that kind of stuff. But no, it's all fine. Modern medicine's wonderful, and shout out to Dr. Kai, my endodontist. She was wonderful, and she was efficient, man. Told me, she's like, it might be about an hour 10. This was Friday about noon. I got in there finally about 12:30, popped in some earbuds, listened to the golf tournament for an hour, was done, in and out, easy peasy. Nice. So tell your daughter just to bring some headphones and, take a deep breath. There will be one little pinch, and then she will and just enjoy it. It's funny. I went and hit golf balls afterwards, for crying out loud.
No, well, and you would have thought that JJ Spawn in the playoff yesterday, you would have thought he had a shot of not Novocaine, but a shot of some sort of hormone juice to make him launch that 8-iron as far as he did. But what it was, because on 17th, you don't know what we're talking about if you didn't watch the playoff.
Yeah, let's set the scene here.
So JJ
Bragman, who's just here for our personality and banter, and maybe didn't watch the Players Championship.
JJ playoff three-hole playoff against Rory yesterday to finish the Players. JJ pars the first hole, Rory birdies. So one stroke lead for Rory going into the 17th. They played 16, 17, 18. Rory walks up confident. He talked about it afterwards. He had practiced this shot on the range as close as he could, as far as finding something on the range that mimics the wind direction, the distance, and the angle, all that jazz. He knew he was going to hit a 9. He walked up there, no questions about it, hit a 9. Boom, right where, nice safe play back of the green. If you notice in the broadcast, they did a great job of pointing this out. JJ peeks over at Rory's back, and he sees he's playing the 9. And coming off the first hole on hole 16, him and his caddy were not really agreeing on the numbers. It didn't seem like JJ was really trusting like the angle and how it matches up with the yardage and the wind, and they weren't on the same page, and it showed. JJ peeks at Rory's back, sees he's playing the 9, and decides just simply in his head what it seems like, I don't hit my 9 as far as Rory. The wind's coming at us. I'm going to hit an 8. And just left it as simple as that. Not even leaving room for the fact that Rory didn't hit a full 9. Like, he doesn't know. He got out of his game and let another player's game influence him.
Well, by that math, he would have clubbed down, though. It's like, oh shit, he didn't hit a full 9. Maybe I should continue. You're right.
Yeah, he got in his head and he took the 8, very unconfidently looking. And I'll tell you what, he hit a beautiful shot with it. He flushed the ball nicely. He hit it dead on the pin, which was going to be tough to do in that wind. So the line was fantastic. He just crushed it. And like you had said in the text to me, part of it was probably a bit of adrenaline rush for sure. But I think the biggest part was just not trusting his game and letting another player's game influence him. And he put it in the water. Next thing you know, I think he tripled that hole, and he was down. Yeah, he was 3 over. Rory was even after that hole because he bogeyed. And what we saw on 18 after that, Rory gave up another shot, bogeyed 18, and because they both put it in the rough. And what could have been if he didn't put that ball in the water on 17, we might have been going to sudden death. Or JJ.
So there's, first of all, is my audio still okay?
Yeah.
Okay, then it's just on my end. I can hear you,
Crispy.
and there's some static, crispy, the dulcet tones. There's Roars looking a little professorial with those glasses on. Um, Happiest man on earth, and I think he said he's going to play once more between now and Augusta. He just thinks it's stupid to be 3 weeks off, which I agree.
Yeah.
A couple of things to take away from JJ's morning. Yeah, I was 100% right. Shocker there. The adrenaline was the difference maker. You heard him talk about practicing that 127, 120. I mean, he practiced the shot. He practiced the yardage stock right there on the range. And I don't know if he thought to himself, I'm going to be a little jacked up, when I get up there. So I don't think he did. I think it's kind of, you get lost in the moment and maybe you underestimate it. For the rest of his life, he'll probably club down in that situation or just start clubbing down in general. I don't know. Maybe he'll get scared of it instead of being, but he knew what he had to do, down a stroke, and his his opponent just kind of out there. And then we saw what Rory did once he got on the green. It wasn't exactly, the best. And so he knew he had an opportunity there and he went flag hunting, but he didn't account for just that little bit of juice that comes in the moment when that happens. But the second thing is, stay the fuck out of your opponent's bag.
Right.
The only time, I mean, literally the only time you really should care about or even be considering what other guys are hitting. Now, somebody's be chirping, they do it all the time. Shut up. Who are you? And I'm like, you're right. Who am I? All I know is that
we're the guys without a book in our hands that says exactly how far we hit each club down to the centimeter. That's what the difference is.
Well, and actually that's some people would say that's the argument for like, who gives a shit? Might as well, like, if Andrew hits his 8-iron roughly 145, 150. Never mind. I don't want to get into it. You stay in your own bag, you stay in your own lane, you stay in your own head, unless you're playing a little bit of team golf. Like if you are playing, alternate shot, best ball, whatever, then sure. And you trust somebody, because I that happens with my group all the time. These guys are older than me, and they hit it probably a club and a half, sometimes shorter, but I'll still ask every once in a while, like, what'd you hit there? Maybe if I've already calculated everything else in my brain. But all the other variables that you want to take into account when you're selecting your club, and even if you're just out there, if you're out there to booze and have a good time, then who gives a shit? Just kind
grab whatever you grab.
Guesstimate it. Yeah, go out there with 4 sticks and one tee, and just say, let's have at it and crack some beers and have fun and keep the game moving. Just don't hold me up. I don't care what else you do. But if you're going to have any sort of process to it, keep it as simple as possible, trying to factor in other people's yardages and their playing abilities and what they have and their equipment. Let's just start with that there too. Not to mention, like, launch angle. Rory pulled a 9. Did he, and the analytics shows that, or the analysis that everybody pointed out that he flighted it, which is code for he did hood it. So he kind of like had his hands forward, de-lofting. How much did he de-loft it? Did he de-loft it down to an 8-iron? And then, there goes JJ pulling his 8. And then he all of a sudden does the same thing, which de-lofts it a little bit and just put, it was Johnson Wagner, everybody, the mustache guy who they have out there with Golf Central now.
Yeah.
And, I like his role, which is each day he goes out at the end of the day of these tournaments and tries to recreate some of the shots from the day. He did it with Valhalla and, the 18th hole in the rough on the left. He did it with Bryson's bunker shot. And what he said, though, this had nothing to do with him going out there. That's just what he's doing. But he mentioned that from his vantage point, he noticed the difference in the flights immediately. Those 2 balls where Rory's came out low, controlled, kind of like he was just genuinely just trying to throw it in the middle of the green and maybe even short. Where again, JJ kind of felt like he had to go, flag hunting. And once you get it up in the air, there's no telling what happens. Maybe the wind just let up slightly for just half a second, and it just kind of
could have been part of it.
Yeah, we are talking about. I think people miss when they see shots like that. They see this and they forget just how effing hard it genuinely is to hit a golf ball, taking something this big and going at something, this big from more than a football field, like a football field and a half away. That's hard enough. And then factor everything else in, the wind and the crowd and the money. I don't want to say it was kind of a fait accompli, or it was, just, is that how you French people say it? It's like, it was just kind of like inevitable.
I don't know.
Rory was going to win this, but it was
Well,
pretty.
we all entered the day assuming he was going to win it. Honestly,
Yeah,
we
when
did.
they put the numbers side by side,
Yeah.
they're this same number of starts, but then 27 wins versus 1, and this is his first playoff. He's been here 5 or 6 times. No disrespect to JJ Spawn either, because I think immediately afterwards too, I texted you. I wouldn't be shocked if Homeboy rattles off 2 wins this year and maybe even contends in a major.
He's playing very good.
Yeah, as you pointed out, a lot of top 5s, and he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who's going to crumble. He almost had that disbelief of like, not denial, disbelief. It was like, I know, like it's like I understand I lost, but damn, like it wasn't
he knew it didn't have to end that way.
Yeah, he wasn't questioning his decisions or anything. I think he was questioning the execution. But I like that you pointed out maybe it was really going back to the back and forth with the caddy, and that indecisiveness can lead to some shaky hands and everything else. So let's move on a little bit and talk about the weather.
Sure.
What was your takeaway from the course, the weekend, everything? And then I got a 30,000-foot view observation for you.
I like when weather is a factor when it comes to wind, because I think it forces guys to play more shots in their tool bag, if that makes, or the toolbox, however you want to say it.
I'm a tool bag guy.
Similar to how they added the tree on 6 off the tee box. It forced guys to, like we were just saying, control their ball flight, play a shot that keeps it, low at the start and rises after. I mean, these are all, like, we don't want them just getting up there every single time on the tee box and hitting the same shot over and over, because that's just boring. You want to see them challenge. So when the wind comes into a factor, depending on how the wind is, we see it completely changes a course sometimes to play a way that the course wasn't necessarily designed to be played. And that's fun because it challenges the guys to think outside the box. And I like when they sit there and have to get creative with the shots. It's creativity has created some of the best moments in golf history when it comes to individual shots that we remember. So yeah, give me all the wind. Obviously the 3 or 4 hour delay because of the storm on Sunday, like, wasn't ideal, obviously, but they still, I'm impressed. They still technically finished the tournament in the round. If it wasn't for the playoff, they still got it in. So, like, that's impressive. They obviously made the right call to rush everything in the morning, and I was fine with the leaders being on the course at 10 o'clock in the morning, because, like you said in the text, we didn't have to wait for it, and we got to midday, the day that most people were celebrating St. Paddy's Day, hanging with friends, family, whatever, sit there and watch some golf. And it was fantastic, and the weather was beautiful. So I don't know about you, I was outside in a garage with the game and the music and the drinks and the family and the food and the fresh air, and it was fantastic.
Your uncle's outdoor. I loved the visuals. You looked like you had a good time. I too am here for it, meaning that kind of situation, which is why I'm happy it came back to March. We didn't see too many of these. It was a different course when it was in May. And for those who are new to this game, this tournament was played in March from its inception, pretty much all back in the 70s, all the way up until 2007 when it moved to May. Had to do with major realignments. They, they wanted to move some things around, but whatever. And so, interesting. And so in 2019, it moved back to March, its traditional time, because they wanted to move the PGA back they wanted to bring that to May, and, kind of have this schedule that gets out of the way of football. And the reason I like it is because I think it reintroduced people to the North Florida this time of the year, which I grew up in Jacksonville. We know about my history with, well, that's right over my shoulder right there. The player, my history with the players, my affinity, and, like, being able to grow up around those places. But those, like, quasi cold 50 degree, windy as hell, that's about as wintry as it gets for North Florida. And it's just, it shows how tough that course can be. There's water on every hole, the thick rough. That was another thing that stood out to me, is this time of year, kind of grass and how they can grow it out. I mean, you saw Scotty Scheffler make a mockery of 16 at one point, going from the left to the right in the rough and then to the left in the rough. And he couldn't get it more than 50, 60 yards up the fairway at a time. Will Zalatoris at one point was looking pretty. He was double digits under par. I think he had it to 11 under, maybe almost 12.
Oh yeah, then he was one off or tied for the lead at one point, and then he was just gone.
Gone, literally gone. He finished quad, double, par, bogey, and
It was
just
brutal.
So I love Pete Dye's masterpiece in March. Give me this, all day, every day. Uh, so that's why I think that was kind of one of the big. Now it sucks that for whatever reason we had to go to a Monday playoff. I hate
Yeah.
the Monday finish. I really just, are we not at a place where we can get some fucking drones up there with, big lights and just
Like
floodlights?
spotlights.
Yeah. Take this shit to TGL. Let's take this inside to the clubhouse and we'll finish it in there.
Oh God.
What else from the players this weekend? I think the course was a success.
Yeah, the course. Honestly, I think the course was
A lot of
the
big names
the
no-show.
all-star.
I think Ludwig O2 barbecued. There was JT had that brush. He tied the course record, but he played
I know
like
that
dog
one
shit the
day.
rest of the time.
Yeah, Wyndham
So,
Clark withdrew. That messed people a lot.
Speaking of withdrawals, that was the other big story. Jason
Uh-huh.
Day, loved seeing that. And I read a good, quick kind of recap piece, pointing out that had he started the tournament in any way, shape, or form, and withdraws, there's no way that Danny Walker gets into the tournament. And if you missed it, Danny Walker was the guy who kind of had a mullet. You're like,
yeah.
who is that again? Is that Jimmy Walker? He's back, former
he was up
world,
there for a
whatever.
little bit. I think it was day 2 on Friday. He was up there for a little bit.
And he was up there. He finished up there. I think he finished top 10. Close to that. He won $800,000 after saying basically he was broke previously. He's a local pro who was an alternate and he was just on site. He said he was basically taking a shit when he got the phone call that he was going to be in the field. He went out to his car, had a nice cry, which that's literally, he's like, had to cry a little bit. I would too.
Of course.
And then he goes out and he fires, I think, 1 over on the first 2 days to make the cut on the number. And then out of nowhere, 66 on Saturday to be like, hello world. And then he hung in there on Sunday to get a big paycheck. So Danny Walker, come on down. And I think that's why the PGA Tour will always and forever be, superior to Live Golf. Had to get that in there.
Yeah. Well,
guys like Danny Walker.
Guys like Danny Walker, the cut chasers, because making the cut for most of the guys on tour means the world to them. That's their paycheck for the next month or so, depending on how well they do. And that's I did get speaking of the cut, I will say I did get a little dig. I couldn't help myself on Michael Kim when because he had posted this nice long bullet pointed review of the players from his standpoint. And I just had to let him know that I respect the level of depth he went into it, and you could tell he spent a lot of time and really spent the entire weekend, putting his effort into it. So I just had to let him know that because he really burned me. If he had just made the damn cut, he literally cost me hundreds of dollars on DraftKings. If he had just made the cut, and the way he missed the cut too was absolutely brutal. Because he's on 17 and he has a 3-foot putt for par and he missed it. And he missed the cut by 1 stroke. And that, I was really thinking after the first day, I said, okay, if Michael Kim can just make the cut, he's the type of guy that the way he's playing right now, he can turn it around. He's not going to win the thing, but he can make a little run to contend in the middle of the top half there. And, man, he just really let the wind out of my sails, because that was also the day that I needed Justin Thomas to make the cut. And that's the day he tied the course record. So that day was a big up and down day for me. Thank you, Michael Kim, for ruining my millionaire dreams.
T6. Danny Walker finished T6. So top 10 finish for, homeboy coming out of nowhere. Is Michael Kim also the one who bitched about having to fly everywhere to play professional golf? When it was like a schedule came out a few years ago. I think it was.
I don't remember that, honestly.
Don't worry about it. We'll blame it on him.
We'll blame it on him anyways. Real fast, quick TGL update, because look, the Bay is in trouble. The Bay is in big trouble right now. Atlanta, last I saw, that they're doing an interview of Dan Orlovsky right now. But so they're not showing the scoreboard. But when I looked just a minute ago, Atlanta's up 5-2. I need to check which hole they're on. But Atlanta's winning 5-2 over the Bay, looking to pull the second upset of the first round of the playoffs here after New York took out LA last night. And you just got to hope for Tommy Fleetwood's sake he's playing this week that he can putt better, because forget just that lip out last night to lose or to cap off the loss. He missed like 3 or 4 putts the entire night leading up to that. Yes, 5-2 right now. They're on hole 12, the par 3 hole 12, and
that's three up, 3 to play. They've got, we would say, dormy if this was other golf, but there's hammers.
And Bay just threw the hammer before the tee shot, so Atlanta had to accept it. Patrick Hanley on this par 3 teeing off right now with the up against the hammer. He just hit the ball. Let's see how this is going. Good flight line, but it's nope. He freaking stuck it within like 3, and no, it's rolling a little bit. He's like a couple feet away now. That's a fantastic shot by Cantley. He flew it right to just a couple inches from the hole, and it just rolled a little bit past it. That's a great shot, and Bay looks in trouble.
Yeah, I'm just catching up. He flighted that. And they are taking on who was it? LA? Did they? No, New York.
New York beat LA last night in an upset, and then now Bay is looking like they might also get upset by Atlanta.
East Coast represent, and then Hotlanta is going to come up there. The championship matches next Monday and Tuesday night. Monday it's the best of 3 series. Part 1 on Monday, part 2 on Tuesday. If part 3 is necessary, it comes Tuesday night. Yeah, this is kind of one of those. I think baseball should adopt this when you have these best of 3 series, or maybe squeeze in a best of 3 series for the play-in or whatever. But this idea of a potential doubleheader, just kind of like, all right, let's run it back. Let's finish this off right now. In sports that are used to doing that, maybe where, for these guys, it'll be playing 30 holes without walking. So, I mean, it's just a bunch of swings for them. But I'd love to see baseball do something like that, where you have the first, they do doubleheaders all the time. So
they do, yeah, they're used to it. And I want to look ahead to, let's see, next week's schedule 4, because you mentioned how tonight it's kind of interfering with the start of March Madness. Let's see. No, so you know what? Next Monday, so Monday night, there's no tournament games Monday night, because this is the first weekend goes through.
New? Tournament's always Thursday to Sunday.
Right, yeah.
Friday to Monday.
See, and I forgot that, but that's why this you know what, they're competing with the play-in games tonight. I think that's acceptable, considering they had the whole night last night to themselves, and then next Monday and Tuesday for the championship, they don't have to compete with the tournament at all. So I know you mentioned at the top of the show that maybe they didn't look at the schedule, but I think this is actually nicely planned for them. I think it works out perfectly.
I think the rest of it works out perfectly. I think this first round next year, guaranteed, they're going to go back-to-back Monday night and not fuck around with Tuesday in the play-in games, because, quite frankly, let's put it this way. Vegas determines what's the biggest sporting event at the moment, and nothing is touching college basketball. Get the fuck out of the way, especially if it's the NCAA tournament. You're right. I think the rest of the way they probably thought of that, thinking like, yeah, no problem. It's Monday and Tuesday, and I think there might even be NIT games, but no disrespect.
Yes.
Nobody cares about the NIT, not since like the 60s or 70s.
Yeah, there is on Monday and Tuesday, there is NIT and CBI games, but no one cares. And Atlanta has now officially clinched the match tonight. They will obviously finish it out for total points scored. But
will they? Total points was the tiebreaker.
I know, but so maybe they won't now, because since the matchup's already set. But they did finish it off last night for that reason, and I didn't hear why. But they did finish it off last night.
Maybe there's player incentives and bonuses and shit like that.
Yeah, it might be something like that. So I assume they're going to finish these hole 13, 14, and 15 here. But yeah, because Bay had thrown the hammer, their last hammer on that hole, it's now 7-2.
You know what? You know why they're going to do it? Because they owe it to the fans. Because these golfers on these teams feel like maybe they do owe a little bit more from time to time to be as privileged as they are to make this kind of money playing a fucking sport. And if you don't know what I'm getting
I was just going to ask you to
come
explain
on down. Pride of what is he? Is he LA Golf Club? Yeah, fuck him. I'm
Yeah,
glad
he's
they
on
lost.
LA. Yeah,
He's on my shit list right now, and I know he would sit there with that little, cereal eating, shit eating grin, and just laugh it off and be like, "I don't care. I play golf for a living, so I just don't think that." And I don't know if you know this, but I went to Cal, so I'm probably smarter than all of you put together. So because I'm smart and I'm talented, I get to say arrogant shit and then get pushback and then get to come over the top. So Colin Morikawa disappeared after the Arnold Palmer Invitational on the media. He tried to come out
right.
and be like, I was over there signing autographs with the fans. Media didn't come over there and check on me over there. Shut the fuck up. It's not the media's job to chase you down. It is your job to go into the media tent and do your press availability. Now, I
Right.
don't know. I don't know what the PGA Tour player agreements are. I'm actually super curious about this now. Who is required to go into that tent? Who is required to face the media? In the NFL, they got rules like if you're the starting quarterback, if you're the head coach, and like the top skilled position player or whatever their kind of contracts say, then yeah, you have to go out there 15 minutes, whatever it is. I'm sure the winner has to, because let's be honest, you're getting a big fat check and it is being paid for by, a sponsor who would like to see your face next to their trophy for a little bit. But when it's the runner-up situation or Rory just, slamming his hood on the majors last year and walking off. Now that's a USGA event, not PGA Tour sanctioned. But these PGA Tour events, I almost wanted to say like, no, what, Colin? No, you do owe the media a couple minutes, that moment of vulnerability. The whole like, I want my privacy. Okay, then don't play professional sport. That's part of it. That's part of the game. No disrespect. When you're inside your 9 to 5, your 9 to 5 isn't a fishbowl. And so when you lose, we want to know what it felt like. We want to know what went through your head. I was heated, so I needed to walk it off. You know what? Then walk out there and say, guys, not right now. Or have your representative, somebody say, he'll be back in 20 minutes. Just hold off. You didn't do that. And so when that was pointed out, when people who have been there and done that, and I don't care what your personal beef is, but to just blow people off like they're nobodies. Now, Rocco Media and Brandel Chambly, they're established professionals in the sport, and you, my friend, are riding their coattails and behind a path that they blazed. So they critiqued you, young man, and you were out of line for just kind of blowing it all off and saying, I don't owe anybody anything. No disrespect to you. What do you mean, no disrespect? It's very disrespectful. You do owe the people, because without us and without the press and the stories and the spotlight, not just on you, you narrow-minded person. And in this moment, you are being narrow-minded, just like the live golfers who thought that they were going to go over to live and bring the spotlight with them. The sport's bigger than you. So you do owe people those couple of minutes of vulnerability right after in the moment. You do owe the press the couple of minutes, even if you want to sit up there and not answer questions to show how much that hurt. So when you got called out for it, you should have just taken it on the chin like a man and walked off. Instead, you had to come back out over the top and double down. So guess what? That's it. You've burned your credentials as a good guy, and you can sit there with your cute little grin and try to wave it off like it's immature to do the whole I don't care. I'm bigger than that. No, you're not. You're not bigger than the sport. And I'll tell you what, you're going to find out real quickly if you keep this shit up what it feels like to be Phil Mickelson.
I think what it comes down to simply, if you want fans to remember you are just a human like them, then you got to show them you are just a human like them.
Little bit of
It's,
vulnerability.
it's got to be vulnerability. And I did look this up while you were talking there, which was a fantastic run. Loved that one.
It pissed me off, man. Don't try to throw the kids in front of it. Oh, I was out signing autographs with the
Right.
kids.
Yeah.
By the way, I believe he probably was doing that. I saw him do it at
Sure.
the US Open. I saw him do it at the PGA.
Yep.
He's a very big, kind, giving young man. That, and then to double down on it, bad professional mistake. And of course, he'd be like, I'm a millionaire and a major winner. Who the fuck is this guy in his basement? Blah, 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 blah. I'll tell you what, I am the pulse of the people who pay your bills ultimately.
Pushing
Might
the
not
game
be,
forward so that you can have
yeah. So
more
just
media money
not
and all that
directly,
jazz.
but just for what it's worth,
Yeah,
grow up
indirectly.
a little bit.
So I did look it up though. So there is not a strict contractually mandated requirement for PGA Tour
So
players to speak to the media in all circumstances. It's generally
that's going to
expected.
change.
generally expected they'll be available for interviews and media duties as part of their role in the tour's marketing strategy. So it's more of their involvement in the marketing plan. But there's no obligation that they have to. It's really just more of an unwritten rule that basically, if you want to help us push the game forward and market this game, then do your part and talk for 5 minutes with this group of people in front of a microphone about what you did today.
That's all about to change, and I'll tell you why. Because little twit, you know what? That sounds to me. It used to be a gentleman's agreement. It used to be,
Correct.
you know what? You come on
Let's all do our part.
because it used to be before the internet and before social media. Yeah, I was just itching my back and on my ass. If I feel like it looked like I was just scratching
I
my ass.
wasn't even thinking because I didn't even
I
notice.
was like,
thank you for that.
For those on the pod, don't worry about it. It used to be that the PGA Tour and these journalists were the gatekeepers to fame. You had to, so it was an honor. Hey, Joe Shit the Ragman, phenomenal job. You want to go out there and answer a couple questions on behalf of Spartan Oil and this great tournament of ours. And now the reason that Colin Morikawa is empowered to do what he wants to do is because if he wants, he can just go home, get on his Twitter. He can just do a YouTube video. He has direct access to the consumer, direct access to the audience, no longer having to bypass the man and the manufacturer. Allows him. So if we get all these athletes saying we're going to, all of a sudden, if we get the NBA effect, load management, sorry, I can only answer so many questions in a golf tournament. Mental health, I can only, and no disrespect to people's mental health, but I could see that being a crutch being used. Sorry for my own mental health. No. This is, and that's why it's going to be put in the agreement. PGA Tour Enterprises is going to step in and say, you want those fat checks? You want those big purses to continue? Because we've talked about it before. The product itself isn't changing. 72 holes, championship golf, great venues.
Yeah.
What else are we going to be able to squeeze out of these guys? Bing, we need more of your time. And since you're not giving it to us willingly anymore, we're going to just say, sign on the dotted line. And you don't want to do this anymore? Oh, maybe you haven't noticed. The fields are only 70 players now. There's plenty of guys right behind you. So keep it up, Colin, and just see how quickly. Now, he's got fuck you money because he really has won a couple of majors. He can go the way of Bryson if he'd like to, but he's not going to. And I just think that was a weak moment, short-sighted, but very deep insight into how this is all going to play out. It is going to be, contractual obligations. There's your 5 minutes. We're going to get Bill. You want to go Belichick on him? Go Belichick on him. You want to go Marshawn Lynch. Just do it.
Here because of the contract, whatever he said. I forget, but
that's fine. And that
here's so I don't get fined. That's what it was. Yeah.
That's one of the most quoted things from sports in the last 20 years. I'm just here so I don't get fined. And it did wonders for Marshawn Lynch in his brand, but that's Marshawn Lynch in his brand. It's not Colin Morikawa in his brand. He looks like a shithead.
Yeah. And I think obviously the appeal of going, like you said, going and doing your own kind of press release, if you want to call it that, on like Twitter, Instagram, whatever, after the fact on your own directly to the fans, is that they control that narrative. They don't have to get worried about
I'm going to go on Instagram Live. Catch me there.
They don't have to worry about being walked into a question that they don't want to answer or a bad shot they don't want to talk about. Like that's, and I guess currently right now they have the right to not do that because they are independent. So I'm still with you. I agree that they, for the better of the game and the product and for just the brand and the perspective, they should do it. But they technically have the right to not do it because they're independent contractors. And basically, if a bunch of them choose to start not doing that and not putting that time in, then they're just going to see it on the back end eventually, not right away, of things that's going to start to collapse in their world and change. But it would take time.
I'm so happy you brought up the fact that these guys are independent contractors, because that brings up a great analogy of, like, you're right, they are. But now they're starting to kind of demand the same benefits and perks as full-time salaried employees. And well, guess what, Joey? If you want that parking space, if you want that expense account, then we have to have a talk about the whole picture and the big agreement, because we understand that you're still going to be doing coding for the company, but we're paying you a little bit more than we used to for the exact same amount of coding that you're doing. And, Joey could say, like, well, it's not my fault that the coding hasn't gotten any harder or, more volume. As a matter of fact, it's gotten fewer. Right. But so, all right. And end of the analogy. At the end of the day, this is a television program, meaning the PGA Tour and the sport of golf. Do you think that the players' broadcast this past weekend was a step in the right direction or wrong direction after the API?
I think it worked. I think it's a small step in the right direction. Still not perfect, but I could tell the slight difference. I could tell there was more hot mics. There was more even the cutaway shots of both, you know, the 2-and-2 and the commercial and still seeing the play. Like, I was fine with that. I'm even fine if when they go to a commercial break, even if the 2-and-2 screen was literally
Oh, the
just
playing through is great.
but even if it was just them showing the leaderboard on the play and through, while it's just because sometimes I need that break to sit there and kind of catch myself up on where a handful of guys, like how they've been doing in the last like 20 minutes while I was watching another guy, you know, like, so I wouldn't even mind that, but that's my own personal view. So I thought it was a step in the right direction. Yeah, I was fine with it. But I still think there's more creative ways they can kind of continue the growth. But like I said all along, they are showing us that they are willing to change on the fly this season, and they're willing to adjust and analyze as they go. And that's the biggest green light go forward that I've seen in the PJ so far this year that I've been enjoying seeing. So yeah, give me more of it.
Something that jumped out to me was the Friday cut line.
Yeah.
Jay said they're going to try to, make a conscious effort to put more emphasis on that, and it was palpable. They were, when you said they were doing a nice job cutting away, they were doing a lot of cutaways. And I would say, like, why are we? Oh, okay. I'd see like a guy is like tied for 70th, and I'm like, oh, okay. I see why this
Right.
one, or like, he's 52nd, and this is for bogey, and you're like, and that is again, great job, finger on the pulse. We're no longer wowed by 300-yard drives and sharp irons.
Correct.
So you have to bring in the human element. So it's got to be something like, not only is this a 300-yard drive, he has been averaging 317 into the wind for the last 7 holes straight, or something stupid. This is his 5th birdie. There has to be Connor McDavid is hockey. Yes, I know who I was about to say.
Oh,
after the USA Canada,
I thought you said who is Connor McDavid.
I do feel like a dumbass. He's like the biggest deal in hockey. I didn't know. I had no idea. Dude, the only reason I knew about the Brad Marchand trade is because of how upset people were in the region. Like the reason it's nice to live up here. Look at you. You still are so. Are you going to drink?
No, I was fine with it. Do it. I was fine with him going.
But it does sound like this dipshit GM really was just either cheapskating it, or there was some sort of ego involved, because there wasn't. We're not talking about a lot of money.
No, this was a pure business decision. That's all this was, is that they're rebuilding. They're not going. It has nothing to do with being cheap. They aren't going to be able to rebuild around him, and he's a 37-year-old center that.
How many guys are on a roster?
There is
like roughly. I know there's like how many on the ice at the time? 6, including a goalie.
There's probably like 25 on a roster, I think, roughly, in hockey.
Cheers.
Yeah, so it has nothing to do with like they were too cheap to extend him, and what it came down to is that they needed picks and they needed assets and guys to rebuild, and that's what it comes down to. He was worth more to the team and what they would get from him than he was if he stuck around, because we weren't going to be winning a cup in the next 3 or 4 years with him on the team. We're probably not going to win with him not on the team, but we had to get something for him.
All right, that's enough hockey. I don't give a shit. I think it's fun to watch people implode over that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, that's silly. I mean, I implode over some things too sometimes. So I
says the guy who just went on a rant about Colin Morikawa, who might be one of the nicest humans on tour, but I just thought that was a shitty PR move.
I know you called him weak.
It was weak. That's weak as hell, man.
I know.
The double down is weak. It's one thing to to let your mouth get a little ahead of you, but it's another when you've been put in your place to publicly double back down. It's like, come on.
So back to the broadcast. Do you find it less exciting when on like a Sunday or something, when they all of a sudden cut to a guy getting ready to take a shot and you realize he's a guy who's like 12 shots off the lead. He's obviously not going to win this thing. And you're like, okay, they must be cutting to him because he's about to hole or hit an amazing shot. Like, does it take because the only reason they'd be showing him, like, the second you see his score that you'd be like, oh, like, okay, they're showing me this guy this late on Sunday because he's about to hit a good shot. Does that take the excitement out of it for you, like the surprise?
No.
And
I
then,
actually, I
well,
was
I was
actually,
gonna say, and then when they kind of trick you, and then they show that guy not make the shot, it's almost like, oh, they caught me by surprise. But then why the fuck did they show me that guy?
not pissing me off. Again, nothing. The cat's out of the bag. We know how TV works. We know how the internet works. We know how
Right.
replay works. We know that even when things are live,
It's
they probably
predictable.
happened 15 seconds actually before on
Correct.
the live property, and then it went to a production truck, and then whatever.
Yeah, there's a person with a headset in a truck saying, "Show this screen now. Cut to that screen,"
Yeah,
because they're
if
seeing
you've
it all.
ever
They're putting a
if you've ever
storyline
like
together.
been, yeah, if you've ever been to a tailgate outside of a football stadium and you're watching the game live at the truck, you hear the roar in the stadium, and then you look
Exactly.
over the TV and you see what happens.
Yeah.
I have no problem with cutting away to the guy tied for 67th, and it's like, and pardon me, and here's Billy Joe from the bunker on 14. What I want is I want on the ready something about Billy Joe.
Yeah.
Don't just and don't tell me his 16th year on tour, journeyman out of Toledo.
Yeah. Don't give me just his player card information.
I want, yeah, I want to know, how many followers on Instagram does he have? What's, two truths and a lie.
Yeah, give me your interesting fact. Like what? Just something.
Exactly. An interesting fact from his bio that gets me, makes humanize them. And to your point, yes, I want the shot to go in every time because, and it
Right.
doesn't bother me that I know that's what I'm gonna get. I want a highlight. That's why we watch Sports Centers for highlights. And I don't want to be tricked. And it's like, oh, he lipped out that 7-footer. Then why are you showing it? To
Yeah.
show him making the 7-footer, and then talk about his
Mhm.
pregnant wife back home who's crying because he just made his third cut in a row, and they're going to be able to afford that house. Like,
Right.
we have a lot of hungry, content driven people out there who can probably help prep this kind of material, or hell, AI can do it. And that's what's going to
Yeah.
keep me interested in those moments, because unless it's the cut line, once you get to Sunday, because I thought you were going to ask about this, like what happens when it's a 3, 4, 5 shot runaway? Is it still interesting? It's interesting to see the leader hit their shot, but then I
Yeah.
want exactly what you were just talking about. I do want to bounce around and just see whatever highlights are going on out there, because with 70 professional golfers on a golf course, somebody's hitting something really, really nice. And even if
Right.
it's just a crisp 7-iron from, a buck 90 to 2 feet, that's out there. And if you heard just the sheer volume of cameras that they have going on now,
Mhm.
I think the shot tracer alone, there's like 166
Yes.
odd different angles that the producer I was hearing in the truck has to deal with. So the technology is there. Let's just keep moving in the right direction. More is more when it comes to golf. We want to see more shots. We want to see more good shots. And
Mhm.
I even want to say that I want to see more bad shots. And maybe that's something
Yeah.
that you and I can work on, which is I was messaging just really quickly with my guy Jake Marsh,
Yep.
because I wanted to see if he was actually at the tournament. Turns out he wasn't. Neither here nor there. But I said, like, have this idea. So next time you're up at PGA Tour Studios, we need like an NFL Red Zone style bloopers. Basically, I want to see three
Yeah.
putts. I want to see shanks. I want to see people hitting in the water, and then I want a couple of guys like us talking about it. So that would be a good counterbalance, even on like a Sunday when this thing's in the bag, and then it's like, all right, well, let's see what the other end's looking like, and living like. And they kind of get that a little bit with the happy hour. One of the things I wanted to get your take on was this happy hour with Smiley Kaufman
Mhm.
and was it Kiz sitting down there with him? No, it was Smiley Kaufman,
Yeah, no, it wasn't his.
because it was Ricky and Jordan were sitting with him with Smiley when JT was on his magical run towards the course record. But if you're
Yeah.
watching the broadcast at like 5 o'clock, they've been putting Smiley Kaufman on, and he's been having players on there and chopping it up. And I think that when they keep experimenting with stuff like that, that's going to be the sustainable, aspect of the PGA Tour that's going to keep moving it
Yeah.
forward. Because Adam Scott, speaking of a former players champion, JT, not Smiley or
Yeah.
Jordan, Jordan Spieth, Players Championship that's a big
Mhm.
glaring. He doesn't have a PGA, so he doesn't have the
Yep.
career Grand Slam. But I would venture, I don't know if he would rather have a players or a PGA. Probably a PGA because he's a professional and the majors are everything. But a players championship is a pretty glaring hole nowadays in these guys' resume. So
Right.
that not being there, but former players champion Adam Scott had some kind of insight into whether or not this reunification or merger or whatever we want to call it with Live was actually going to happen. He said, we are making progress. The conversations are working in the right
Mhm.
direction. He says, I just don't know if the visions align.
I can
And
tell you they definitely don't.
I think this is the beginning of the end.
Mhm.
And I think that's why I think between the meeting with Trump in the White House and with Adam and Jay talking about Yasser, that is all irrelevant of whether or not lives or dies. That has more to do with the PIF and their investment in PGA Tour enterprises.
Right.
The whether or not the live does its thing. I mean, Greg Norman's moved on. We got no name in the CEO role, and you're still sputtering along with people like Brooks going, I have contractual obligations. I'm not going to talk about what I may or may not be doing after that. It's like, which is code for you're goddamn right. I'm going back to the PGA Tour,
Right.
or I'm going to just join Bryson and do a YouTube channel, that kind of thing. Who knows? But you have Liv floundering over there, and you have all these signs pointing to Yasser, the PIF are going to take money, dump it into PGA Tour Enterprises, move on. Adam Scott's kind of saying, I don't know if this merger is still in the books here. And then you've got my favorite moment from the last couple of days in the world of golf. Phil Mickelson has
It's
entered
always
the
Phil
chat.
Mickelson.
It's always
Always
Phil.
Phil.
It's always Philip.
All right, enlighten me. What did he say now? Because I missed it.
Joaquin Neiman, watch out for Joaquin Neiman at Augusta National, dead ass.
Yeah, he's been playing fantastic for 2
And
years.
he won again on Live.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody made a comment about how great he's been playing and how many victories and this, that, and the other. He's definitely a top 5 player in the world. And Phil commented, top 5, try number 1. And
That's a little. It's like when my it's like my one of my soon to be stepsons earlier was like, oh, we were listing off like top rappers of all time, and I was like, he said someone was top 3. I said, well, no, my top 3 is probably, I'm not gonna list them all, but I said Nas is one of like my top 5 all time. And he goes, oh, Little Nas X, and I was like, no, no, nowhere near top in the world.
So I get shot for saying that in some neighborhoods.
Yeah, right.
And he just came out and just kind of declared that, and then of course he gets shot down. Everybody's like, you're delusional, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And he just, well, this is another one. Here's a hot take. Does Scotty win? This is from a couple days ago. Here's a hot take. This is Phil Mickelson. Here's a hot take. Does Scotty win in 2025 before the Ryder Cup? I don't think so. All right. So he's out there saying that Joaquin Neiman's the world number 1. Scotty's not going to win before the Ryder Cup. He gets shouted down, and then he comes back and he's like, haha, just having fun. Just kidding, fellas. No, you're not. You are the kid who sees everybody's leaving their party because that free open bar you had for the first hour, well, the bar's closed. The DJ friend of yours who said that he would stay for the whole night, he decided to leave too. The party's winding down and everybody's starting to leave, and you're like, but I've got the whole venue for another hour and a half. Where's everybody going? The party's done, over, man. Yeah, and it's like, but you still have that one really cool friend who's like hanging out with you, the one celebrity who stuck around because they really have nowhere else to go. Maybe they're going through a divorce. No disrespect, Joaquin Neiman, or people going through divorces. But that's who he reminds me of. He's desperate. He's thirsty. Everything is falling apart. It wasn't like this was a side gig. This was supposed to be the future of golf.
Correct.
And even when Jay Moynihan said, we're going to take some aspects of Live and we're going to incorporate them into the PGA Tour. And then Adam Scott's out here saying, yeah, but our missions don't alive. He's right. We could take some aspects of Live and incorporate it in the PGA Tour. But
you can wear shorts, maybe.
Like, right. Maybe it's shorts. Maybe he does say, like, we pulled the players, and they do want to be broken up into teams throughout the year. It's not going to be exactly like you looked, but that way there's a side pot of money for team golf. And you do, Zurich it shows a lot of popularity, but then it's like, no, we're just going to unofficially, we're going to have a draft at the beginning of the year. The top 20, maybe like the top 18 finishers or the top 12 finishers, they get to then go, and it's a snake draft. You select your players, and there's your squad for the year. And the FedEx points race goes, and there's a bonus pool there. So that's where I could see this thing heading, where we're still going to get 70 to 150 guys playing 72 holes of championship caliber golf, and it's just going to keep getting repackaged and remarketed, and we're going to keep eating it the fuck up.
Yeah, 72 holes is the part that, in my opinion, should not change. I think that's still just got to be the kind of baseline standard for how these guys are compared and tested and scored against each other across the world. There's got to be a standard. That should be it. Look, that's gonna wrap it up here for us this Tuesday night. Hope you're catching us on YouTube, but also hope you're catching us on your favorite podcast streaming platform. Like I said, we have
Shout out Golfer Gang Network. Let's go.
Golfer Gang Network is where it's going to be who is hosting all of our audio side of things. So make sure to go check out their website. There's if you like our show, there's a ton of great shows that you can get introduced to on the website, golfergangnetwork.com. And if you don't like our show, I can guarantee you there's enough golf shows that if you just like golf, you'll find one over there. So either way, just get over to Golfer Gang Network. You got to check out. There's just a ton of great creators out there.
And those of you staring at our beautiful faces on TSPN, thanks for hanging in there with us as always.
Yes, we are not leaving here for your visual pleasure. We will still be here on TSPN moving forward as well. So we love you guys, and as always, stay classy. We will see you next week.